Obviously, transfer season is one of the biggest talking points during the football off-season. The A-League transfer window has come and gone as the teams have prepared for the upcoming A-League men's season. Let's go through every single club and rate their transfer window in alphabetical order, starting, of course, with Adelaide Utd, who you can see here, not a lot of movement at all from the Reds. They have been one of the quietest clubs this season, but the big loss for them is Craig Goodwin. You can see him there at the bottom of the outs. A massive, massive loss. He's a player you simply cannot replace. The best player in the A-League for the last couple of years. And, you know, not just him. I mean, Louis Dorigo, George Blackwood one day. You're losing some experience and some good young talent there as well. Louis Dorigo earning his move overseas. Congratulations to him. It's a team that I think is obviously going to be shaping up quite similar to last season, but looks like it's downgraded a little bit. You know, very curious to see how Ryan Tunnicliffe goes settling in Australia. And again, you've got some young players who have been promoted to scholarships here. Adelaide look to be a team who, we're going to say this about a lot of teams this season, really look to be, playing youth, playing a lot of young guys, and they have done that over recent years. And this year, it's going to be as big a feature of the Adelaide team as ever. For the Reds, look, losing Craig Goodwin, that's a massive blow, and the failure to bring anyone else in really of quality to fill that void is a little bit concerning for the Reds. I think they'll be really, really worried about this, how this window has turned out. Look, they needed to sign someone else a 3 out of 10. I don't think I can go any higher than that for the Reds. Next up is Brisbane Roar. You can see here from the ins and outs, it's pretty even, but and a nice mix of sort of youth and experience when you look at the ins. I mean, the signing of Florent Berenguer is one that sort of, quickly draws the eyes there. Joey Coletti's back at the club, and then you've got some youngsters who have been promoted. I mean, Quinn McNichol, Ryan Brownlee, Shay Cahill, son of the great Tim Cahill, Jonas Markovsky joining the side as well. Some fascinating names come in, and you look at some of the departures that they've had. I mean, Robbie Cruz never really got going there on his return. Brindle South, Kanadi, Akbari, all these players being moved on. So there is a bit of a fresh take to this Brisbane Roar squad. It's not a full rebuild. You still have the likes of, Tom Aldred, Scott Neville, Jay O'Shea. These guys are still at the club. But the additions are quite nice. Aside from Berenguer, there isn't anyone that sort of really steals sort of the headlines. But Berenguer is a fantastic piece of business. When I saw that was made, I was, really sort of perked my interest. And Brisbane Roar, they could, they've picked up a really, really class play in Florent Berenguer there. So a decent window from Brisbane Roar overall. Hasn't been a disaster at all. Not the best transfer window in the league, but not bad at all. I'm going to go 7 out of 10. For Central Coast Mariners, obviously a lot of concern around some of the departures that they've had. I mean, you look at some of the big names that they've lost from that championship winning season last year. Triantis, Cummings, Silvera, and Kololo. All these guys who were so crucial for the Mariners last season. The ins, though, there's some reason to still be excited about the Mariners for this upcoming season. You've got Alu Kowal and Jing Reese returning to the club, and then Mariners, who've become sort of the signature club for bringing in young players and turning them into top quality A-League players. Very curious to see how the likes of Nathan Paul, Trent Millard, Will Wilson go at the club, and some players from overseas, and Angel Torres and Mikel Docker. It's some question marks in terms of whether Mariners can sort of get the same chemistry and the same sort of quality out of, again, a slightly new crop of players that they have this season. Again, still a solid spine that they have here. But I think when you look at the outs, maybe haven't replaced, to that same quality. I mean, there's a lot to live up to, when you look at the likes of Jason Cummings, Silvera, who, just had incredible seasons last year. It's always going to be hard to replace. It's not a terrible window for the Mariners. I'm very, very excited, especially to see Alu Kowal back at the club. I'm going to go a 6 out of 10. Macarthur FC finished bottom of the A-League last season, but surprisingly haven't gone through a massive rebuild. They've only let sort of a few key players from last season's squad depart. And you look at the ins, there's some decent pickups. I like the signings of Clayton Lewis, Matt Yeoman. They have A-League experience. You got some young guys like Borges Rodriguez and Christian Popovich. And then Valerie Germain, former Monaco striker, got great experience over there in France. That looks like a really, really class signing. If he gets gelling quickly, linking up with the likes of, De Silva, Ulysses De Villa as well, there's a real sort of exciting combination that could be created there in the Bulls front line. A decent window overall, I think, considering the fact that they did pick up the wooden spoon. Again, I think I was half expecting them to go through a little bit of rebuild. That's what we generally see in the A-League when you finish sort of around that bottom 2, bottom 3, 4 area. Macarthur FC, though, not a bad window at all. I think it's actually pretty decent. I'm going to go 7 out of 10. Melbourne City, we're going to split their ins and outs over across 2 pages, and this is their ins first of all. Tolga Arslan coming in, great signing. Stevie Nugarkovic at the club, Jamie Young. Curious to see how Terry Antonis goes after he didn't didn't get much game time at all last year at Western Sydney Wanderers. Marin Jakalic, Aziz Bayic. It's still an exciting sort of list of ins that they brought in. It's the outs where there's maybe a little bit of concern. I mean, when you lose the quality of Geordie Boss, Scott Jamieson, Barisha, some key figures for them last year, Aidan O'Neill, Thomas Lamb, Van der Ven, Telio, Berenguer. I mean, that's a high quality crop of players who have departed. But I think the players, they've done a really decent job, City, to replace that quality. And look, time will tell whether, the new crop of players that we can see here does settle in for this upcoming campaign. And there's some people who might be a little bit skeptical as to, the fact that City have let so many key players from the last couple of years depart the club. But in my opinion, the ins have been very, very impressive. I think when you lose that many quality players, a lot of A-League sides would sort of struggle to recruit the same quality. A club of the size of Melbourne City, who have the resources that they do have, they're able to do it, though. I think it's been a great window for them overall. I'm going to go 8 out of 10. I do like some of the new faces that Melbourne Victory have brought in. You got Daniel Arzani, who's looking for a fresh start at Victory. Dalma Traore is back at the club again. Excited to see Zinedine Machash in the A-League, a player with a lot of potential, a lot of excitement around him, and some good young players coming in. You got Franco Lino and Sarah Valadon given scholarship contracts. Young Fabian Monja from New South Wales as well. Olyroos midfielder Ryan Teague. Good balance of experience and youth in there in the ins. And some of the outs, you're losing some key players there. I mean, the departure of Josh Bolante, Cadete departed the club as well. Some question marks over the departure of Will Wilson, who I know a lot of Victory fans were upset about. But it's a side that I think will be even stronger this year, in my opinion. Melbourne Victory still got good quality at the club that they have maintained, and I think they've really, really added to that. I do like this window for Melbourne Victory. I think they've replaced really, really well. I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10 as well. For Newcastle Jets, I think the eyes first of all go to the outs there. You've lost the likes of Angus Thurgate, Becca Mikkeltadze. I mean, those are two players who've been, so crucial for the Jets over the last couple of years. Massive, massive departures. And when you look at the way they've replaced them, not necessarily, players of the same quality, although, could prove to be over the coming season. But Apostolos Stamasolopoulos, I think, is a player who still hasn't sort of hit his potential yet in the A-League. But excited about the likes of, Clayton Taylor, Lockie Baylors from rival A-League clubs. They're joining the team, looking to have breakout seasons in the A-League men's this year. Jason Bertomir joining from France as well. Curious to see how he settles in as well. There's a lot of players with sort of a lot of expectation. They could have big seasons, but it's a matter of whether new coach Robbie Stanton can get those players settled in and, get them firing this season. But for me, I'm a little bit concerned about some of those outs. It's not a disaster of a window at all by any means. I think a decent one overall, but I think they could have strengthened a little bit better, Jets. But considering we know the financial struggles that they go through, ownership issues, it's been okay. Let's go 6 out of 10. Perth Glory have parted ways with an extensive list of players here. You can see the list of outs there. Certainly outnumbers the list of ints. Let's talk about some of those ins, though, because some of them are actually pretty decent. I mean, Ollie Sale joining the club, one of the best keepers in the league. You've got youngsters like Jared Carluccio joining the club, Daniel Benny and Jalen Perman given scholarship contracts, and Ollie Bozanic is a really nice piece of business. Picking him up on loan from Western Sydney Wanderers, a great player who is once again teaming up with coach Alan Stajic. When you look at the list of outs, I mean, there are some major departures there. I mean, losing someone like Keegan Jelicic, he was great for them last season, as was Jack Clisby. There's still, again, a solid spine there at Perth Glory. You still have the likes of Latchman, Beavers, Mustafa Amini who are there. It's a matter of whether, those new players are really going to have an impact for them this year. I think are really, going to keep an eye on Ollie Bozanic this year. I mean, a great experience, a great player to have in your A-League squad. Despite there being an extensive list of outs, though, it's not a terribly concerning window for Perth Glory for me. I think they still have the depth and the balance of youth and experience to have a decent season this year. I'm going to go 7 out of 10. Sydney FC left some of their business in the transfer window pretty late on in the window itself. You look at the outs first of all. I mean, they early on announced the departures of Alex Wilkinson to retirement, Adam Lafondra leaving the club, Retre, Donachie, Kabaya was really, really key for them last year. And the ins of, the broader, they've managed to cover those positions pretty well in the end. I mean, Joel King returning to the club. You got some young players, some Joey's players who have joined in Amanatides, Glasson and De Jesus. Jordan Courtney Perkins, I think, is a nice piece of business as well. And then very excited about these Brazilian players. Fabio Gomez, Gabriel Lacerda, both joining on loan. We've already seen Fabio Gomez. He's performed performance in the Australia Cup final coming off the bench was just unbelievable. They could be really decent pickups for Sydney FC this season, I feel like. So I think when you look at the outs and the ins, pretty well balanced. We're yet to see if Fabio Gomez can sort of replicate the feats of Adam Lafondra in the A-League. But overall, I think if you're a Sydney FC fan, you could be pretty happy with this window overall. I'm going to go a 7 out of 10. Unfortunately, not too much can be said about Wellington Phoenix's window this year. This is the one that really sort of was quite perplexing to me. The fact that Wellington Phoenix really didn't strengthen the squad much at all. I mean, you look at the players that they brought in, Mohamed Altai, Jack Duncan, both from Newcastle Jets, and a couple young players being promoted in, Lucas Kelly-Heald, Finn Conchi as well. Some of the outs are a bit concerning though, because they have lost some key players in Ollie Sale, Clayton Lewis, Steven Ugarkovic. These guys were key for them last season. Losing Lucas Moragas, Callan Elliott, Jan Sass as well. I mean, all these guys were contributing to the first team. It's definitely going to be, again, more of a youthful approach this season. Giancarlo Italiano, the new Phoenix head coach over there at the Knicks. Really concerning when you look at the ins, though. I mean, it's a big win for Wellington, keeping the likes of Zavada and Kraev as well, who is still there. But it's a squad that is weaker. It is weaker compared to past seasons, and I'm a bit concerned for Wellington Phoenix and how they go about performing this year. I think Wellington Phoenix, they'd be pretty concerned when they look at the list of ins there. There isn't really anyone being brought into the club to strengthen them. This is a chance, though, for some of these young players to step up and really surprise at A-League level. Wellington Phoenix, though, I think this is a disaster of a transfer window. I'm going to give them a 2 out of 10. Western Sydney Wanderers, a pretty extensive list of outs there. The ins that they brought in have been pretty decent, though, and it's surprising as well, considering they actually had a pretty decent season overall, that they have gone through a pretty extensive rebuild here. Couple key figures still at the club. I mean, it's good that they've retained the likes of Lawrence Thomas, Marcelo, Brennan Barella, who are still at the club. But you look at some of those outs, and it is a little bit concerning. I mean, Schneiderlin, Amalfitano, and Bakoto, Traore, Layudi, some of these key players who helped in Wanderers finishing in the top 6 last year. Callum Neuenhoff, another one as well. Tommy Machella, some really, really big names. The ins, though, I think they've done a decent job to replace some of that quality. I mean, Lockie Brook back in the A-League. I think Dylan Paris is a good player. Jack Clisby is a decent player at left back there as well. And I think Wanderers fans should be pretty excited about Marcus Antonsen. He has already grabbed a couple goals in the Australia Cup. And surprised to see Josh Berlante head back to Sydney as well, joining the Wanderers. Hendricks as well. I mean, that's a class signing in midfield. That's really going to strengthen the midfield area for Wanderers. So while early on in the window, I was a little bit concerned about Wanderers and letting so many of those key players go and looking at how could they strengthen, how could they replace some of those departures. I think they've done a pretty decent job overall. Not the best window, but pretty decent, 7 out of 10. And then lastly, Western United, again a team who've had quite a lot of outs here, and it's a lot of those players who helped win them the championship a couple of years ago. When you look at Lacroix, Jamie Young, Kilkenny, Topo Stanley, Diamanti, there's some key first team players who have departed, but maybe some players who are sort of getting a little bit older and they're going for a slightly more youthful approach. You look at youngsters like Kane Vidmar, Matthew Grimaldi, who are joining the club. Some goalkeeping signings of Heward Bell and Sutton, who were both sort of backup keepers for other A-League clubs last season, now heading over to Western United. Very excited about the signings of Thurgate, Daniel Pena back in the A-League, Riku Danzaki, and Nikita Rukavitia. There's enough there to suggest that Western United have a team capable of finishing in finals. Just looking at the ins, they're really going to add to the quality that's already existing in the squad. Despite the extensive list of outs there, I think the business that they've done to bring in some really class players is quite impressive. So I'm going to give them a decent rating here. I'm going to go 7 out of 10 for Western. Feel free to drop your ratings for the A-League club's transfer windows down in the comment section below. Make sure you stay subscribed for more A-League content here at Coastwood Football. My name's Lockie. See you in the next one.